Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. With everything that's been going on over in Europe, the price of wheat is going up, which means eventually that's all going to trickle down here, and the price of bread and stuff is going up. Now, the old timers, they never wasted anything. And bread was one of those things that even when it got stale, it got used. And with modern bread, they put stuff in modern bread so that stuff doesn't mold or go bad for a really, really long time. But still, when it's past its prime, it's past its prime. But there are things that the old timers would do with that stale bread other than your usual, like bread puddings and French toast and like breakfast casseroles that I think most people are aware of. They had a couple of things that they would make. And the two things that I remember was one that's called supperot, which is basically soup and bread. And then the other one was fried noodles. Those were the two things that I remember them making that I don't see really anybody talking about anymore. And it started out with stale bread. And here is some hamburger buns here that I'm starting to cut up that are well past their prime. They got pushed to the back of the old bread box. I don't know if you can see it there. And these expired on May 7th. Well, it's like March 7th. It's at the end of March now, so these are at least a couple weeks past their prime. And we're going to take these and we're going to dice these up, and we're going to add these into these other dishes. Now, supperot was something that they would usually make like on a Monday. If they had like a piece of beef that they cooked on Sunday for Sunday dinner, the leftover pieces of beef from that and the bone, they would simmer that and make a little broth, throw some vegetables into that, and then they would toast these breadcrumbs in a pan, and you would put the soup over top of that to make it more hearty. And it's actually quite tasty. But they didn't bake these or toast these or anything. They would actually put these in a pan with a little bit of fat, usually either lard, butter, or bacon grease, or some combination of the three. I've got about a half a stick of butter in here that I'm going to use. And then the other thing that they would make was fried noodles. And fried noodles was the same thing. They would toast these bread pieces. They would season them, and I'm actually going to season these bread pieces with onion powder, parsley, a little bit of garlic powder, and a little bit of black pepper. But they would use diced up pieces of onion. They would use herbs out of the garden. Chives was one that got used quite a bit. Pretty much everybody had a chive plant. And when those bread pieces were toasted, they would throw those herbs and spices onto that, and then they would add that into the noodles, and they would actually fry the noodles a little bit with those bread pieces, and it was a side dish that they would use for a bunch of different things. But the supperot, they would basically take that soup pot, they would set it on the table, they would take a big bowl with these toasted breadcrumbs, and everybody could put as much in their bowl as they wanted, and then they would ladle the soup over top of it. So anyway, I got this stuff started here. I'm going to cut the rest of this bread up, get it in here, we're going to toast it up. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Alright guys, this has been frying here. These breadcrumbs have been frying for about, I'm going to say 7 or 8 minutes. You can see they're kind of starting to get a little color on them. We want a little bit of brown, maybe a little black piece or two in there to give it a little flavor. And all you do is just kind of keep turning this as you're frying them. And they're going to take up the fat that was in here. Like I said, I had about a half stick of butter in here is what I started out with. A little bit on the translation of supperot. There were several different dialects of German, just like there's like several different dialects of French. You know, if you go to Quebec or you go to Haiti, the French is not really the French that they speak in Paris. And that's kind of like the German around here with the German immigrants. There was High German, Low German, and what they called Plattdeutsch. And supperot is a type of, that's a Low German concoction word that they would have used to describe this. There was a lot of Low German translations of different items and things that would have been used on a day-to-day basis. I just wanted to kind of like throw that in there, kind of I guess an interesting little tidbit on the linguistics of the immigrants that came over here. But when this stuff is toasted to your liking, and you want it kind of firmed up a little bit, so it's got a little bit of texture to it. And then we're going to just add in our seasonings. And this is probably about, I'd say 2 tablespoons of onion powder, 2 tablespoons of parsley flakes. I'd say a good teaspoon of pepper and a good teaspoon of garlic powder. So onion powder, garlic powder, parsley, and black pepper. And we're going to put a little of that on, give it a little stir. Just like that, and then get the rest on here. We're going to let this go for another minute or two so that flavor can absorb and kind of come out with that heat. The smell is actually really, really good right now. The aroma of this, some of these basic recipes is really, really good. But anyway, we're going to get a little heat on this here, and then we're going to transfer this over in the bowl, and I'm going to show you what these finished dishes look like. All right, I got my breadcrumbs all fried, got them out now, and now I'm going to show you guys real quick how to make the fried noodles. Now, they would use an egg noodle, something like this right here. This is just a packaged noodle that I cooked up this morning. They would also use leftover noodles. So if they had leftover noodles, but it was always some kind of noodle that they would use for this. So they would take their fat that they had in the pan, and they would throw these noodles in, toss them around a little bit so a little heat, a little extra heat on here. And they would add things into this too. If they had onion, they would dice an onion into this. Like I said, chives was something that was real popular with this. Any type of fresh herb that they would have, they would throw into this. There's no kind of set recipe for this. But after these would get kind of coated and heated up, they would add some of their breadcrumbs into it. Just like that. And again, they would toss this till all of the flavor and stuff was incorporated into the noodles, and it would bring the breadcrumbs back to life, and it would flavor the noodles. And this would be a side dish for whatever that they were making for that evening. All right, guys, this is basically how they put together the supperot, and they take their bowl with their fried breadcrumbs in it, and they would put as much of this into their bowl as they wanted. Put a hearty portion in there, about like so. Then they would add a soup to it, and the soup was generally some type of beef soup. Now, this I made with a canned beef broth, but like I said, they would have probably simmered a bone, and they would have added the leftover beef into it. I just used a canned beef broth and a little bit of a hamburger that I had here. I browned it. And they would actually throw a couple of vegetables in. They would probably use anything, celery, onion, carrot, rutabaga, whatever they had. What I got in here is onion and carrot. And it would be kind of brothy, because you would want it brothy because the broth would be absorbed by the breadcrumbs that you had in there, and they would just ladle this over the top like so, and then you would have the different texture in there from the fried breadcrumbs plus the added flavor, and that would make their lunchtime meal, basically. Like I said, especially on Monday. This was kind of a Monday thing. And then this is what the fried breadcrumbs with the fried noodles looks like. And this would have been just set on the table with whatever they were having for that evening. If they had some kind of meatloaf or roast or some kind of roasted chicken, this would just be a side dish. Sort of a combination of basically pasta and stuffing. It's got that whole flavor thing kind of going together. But anyway, I wanted to show you guys these kind of two old school recipes here. Things are getting tougher all around, and prices are going up, so we don't want to waste what we do have, like that stale bread. The old timers would have never wasted that. They would have made something like this to make that stuff useful, bring it back to life so they could still utilize it. But anyway, this is Modern Refugee. Appreciate all my subscribers out there. Hope you guys get a little information, a little entertainment out of my video. This is just one more thing here to give you an idea how to survive these times. But anyway, you guys take care.